Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff Lanoski, and today I'm going to teach you how to manual using the ultimate manual machine. Now, manual machines are super popular on YouTube, and you might be wondering, do I really need a manual machine to learn this skill? The answer is yes. Without a manual machine, you would need a street, a sidewalk, an empty parking lot, or even some trails. And the reality is, not everybody has access to that. So I'm going to teach you how to build a machine that could help you learn this skill. All right, before we get started, you're going to need a few tools. You're going to need a marker, a tape measure, a square, a drill, and a saw. Oh, and you'll also need a pencil, a ruler, and a paper, because we need to design this ultimate manual machine. So let's sit down and get to it. So, you want to learn to manual? Let's talk about everything you'll need to consider when designing a manual machine and what each feature actually does. The first thing you'll need to do is draw a base for your bike to sit on. If you have a few different bikes, or you want to be able to have your friends try it, you'll want to design the manual machine for the longest bike in your fleet. That's because every bike is going to manual a little differently. A dirt jump bike with 26-inch wheels and a short wheelbase will manual a lot different than a full suspension 29-inch trail bike. So you'll want to practice on all of them. Your bottom bracket height, chainstay length, and handlebar height all have a huge effect on how your bike manuals. Let me explain why. When you manual, you want your weight balanced over the rear axle. That's the yellow dot. Your hips carry a lot of weight, and your feet push down on the pedals. In your normal riding position, all of your weight is in front of the rear axle, and that keeps the front end down. Manualing requires you to find the balance point between your feet, your hips, and the rear axle. That triangle will change depending on the geometry of the bike, and this is all done by pulling on the handlebars. In order to practice the balance point, you're going to need to get on your back wheel. So let's design something to hold it up. Having something to hold your rear wheel will be great for when you want to practice getting your front end up in the air. The biggest mistake I see is people pull straight up on their handlebars and look down, instead of shifting their weight down and back and looking forward. Remember those triangles? Lifting straight up doesn't put your weight behind the rear axle. Getting your weight back will. Down and back will allow you to get your weight centered. This photo totally looks like me at 6'4", 220 pounds, riding a dirt jumper. All right, let's break this down one more time. I'm standing and my weight is in front of the back axle. The distance from the grips to my hips is short. I shift my weight back and the teal line grows, and my arms are almost straight before my front end even leaves the ground. Now my front end is up in the air and I keep going back. Once it's in the air, I center myself over the rear axle. Once your front end is up in the air and your arms are relatively straight, you maintain balance by shifting your hips forward and backwards, and you do this by bending or straightening your legs. If you are on a bike with a dropper post, make sure to drop it all the way down so you have some room to move around. My longer hardtail takes a little bit more effort to get in the air, but once it's there, it's actually a lot easier to hold the manual because it's a lot less twitchy. The full suspension bike is more forgiving. The longer bike actually takes more effort, but it's easier in terms of needing to make bigger movements to mess it up. The next thing to think about is side-to-side balance. so you'll want to draw some feet to hold you up. Maintaining balance side to side is a little bit different than front to back. You'll want to keep equal pressure on each pedal, and you'll try to relax your arms so that they're almost straight. Side to side corrections start with your knees, which will rotate your hips. After some practice, you'll learn that you could actually steer your bike using your knees and hips. Now that you're getting your front end up, you'll want to make sure it doesn't go too high. So designing a strap to hold down your front wheel will keep you from going too far back. Kind of like how your rear brake does it when you're actually doing a manual. Your rear brake is your emergency switch. If you go too high, grab a handful and it'll bring your front end down safely. You'll also want to practice in flat pedals. That way you can always step off the back if necessary. Learning to lightly feather the back brake will help you control your manual as well. I think we've addressed everything you'll need to do when learning to manual. So let's recap one last time. Getting your front end up in the air is all about shifting your weight down and back. You'll want to keep your arms relatively straight. Maintain your wheelie by shifting your weight forward and backwards, by straightening and bending your legs, and also feathering the rear brake if you need to. Make side-to-side corrections by using your knees, which will in turn rotate your hips. And last but not least, practice, practice, practice. Well, I ended up giving all my manual tricks away and I never even got to build the machine. So I guess that goes to show there's no magic bullet. If you want to build a manual machine, go for it. They're tons of fun. But you can get just as good at manualing just as quickly outside where it's free. If you like this Trail Boss hat that I'm wearing, I'm going to put a link to where you can get it down below. If you'd like some one-on-one coaching, I just started a Patreon level with a private Facebook group where you could submit videos and I'll review them and give feedback. I'll put a link to that below. So hopefully you found this video funny, hopefully you found it entertaining, and hopefully you found it informative. Until next time, get out there and be a boss.